Call this meeting to order. This is the August 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission. It will begin with a roll call. Commissioner Allen,
Present.
Commissioner Franks,
Present.
Commissioner Harrison is absent, and Commissioner Lindsay is absent. Commissioner Mann,
Here.
Commissioner McLemore,
Present.
Commissioner Orr is here, Alderman Peterson,
Here.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Present.
All right. This is the point where we have opportunity for citizens to comment. This is for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you'd like to speak on a specific item on the agenda, please wait until that item comes up on our agenda. For all citizen comments, please fill out the speaker card, hand it to staff, and then come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 2 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to speak at an item that's not on our agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll proceed. Begin with item 1, consideration of approval of the July 25th, 2024 FMPC minutes. Do I have a motion?
Move for approval. Second.
Approved and seconded. Go to a vote. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison is absent. Commissioner Lindsay is absent. Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye. Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. Minutes are approved. Staff,
No announcements tonight.
no announcements. All right. Item number 2 would be the consideration of approval of items 3 through 9 and 14 through 16 on the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Approved and with a proper second. Go to the roll call vote. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison is absent, and Commissioner Lindsay is absent. Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye. Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Minutes are approved. Item number 10, consideration of resolutions 2024-66, a resolution amending Gateway Village. Wait a minute. PUD subdivision, revision 7 to extend the vested rights for the property located at west of Franklin Road and south of Linwood Way, located at 120 Davenport Boulevard. Staff?
Thank you. The request is to extend the vesting period for the Gateway Village PUD subdivision an additional 18 months. That is to extend it from October 11th of this year to April 10th of 2026, to allow the applicant to secure any necessary permits and commence site preparation. The revised development plan for Gateway Village was approved by BOMA on October 11th of 2021. The plan includes a density of 6.75 and 144,258 square feet of non-residential space for a site that is composed of around 60 acres. The revision was specifically submitted to request the addition of 6 residential units to their last remaining mixed-use building on the site. Staff recommended approval with conditions of the development plan, and BOMA approved the development plan unanimously. The plan is within the first three-year period and is vested until October of this year. The applicant submitted a site plan for Lot 134, but they have not yet pulled any permits for the site. In reviewing the plan against the current city regulations, the current plan generally complies. The differences in today's zoning ordinance versus their vested ordinance are minor and could be incorporated into the design without major changes to the plan. A new parkland agreement would need to be approved for any new plan that comes before Planning Commission. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 2024-66. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone from the public have comments on this item? Seeing none, is there an applicant? Do we need to hear from an applicant? No. All right. Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a proper motion and second. Any discussion on this one?
We're recommending approval to BOMA, correct?
All right. No, as we see no discussion, let's vote. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison is absent, Commissioner Lindsay is absent, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye, Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item number 10 is approved. To the Board of Mayor and Alderman. Item number 11, consideration of resolutions 2024-60, a resolution amending the 4309 South Carruthers Road subdivision site plan to extend the vested rights. The property is located east of Interstate 65 and west of South Carruthers Road, located at 4309 South Carruthers Road. Staff?
Thank you. The request is to extend the vesting period for 2 years from August 26th, 2024 to August 26th, 2026 to allow the applicant to secure any necessary permits and commence site preparation. This site plan for 4309 South Carruthers Road subdivision was approved by FMPC on August 26, 2021. The plan includes a 6,000 square foot retail space, a 9,500 square foot daycare, and a 3,888 square foot convenience store or gas station, and associated gas pumps on a site that's composed of 5.35 acres. Staff recommended approval with conditions of the site plan. FMPC approved the site plan with conditions by a vote of 8-0. The applicant requested a variance to reduce the transitional buffer on the northeast entrance to the site from 25 feet to 11 feet in order to align the entrance to the site with Carruthers Parkway. This variance was approved by BZA on April 1st, 2021, and then again on December 7th, 2023, after the original variance had expired. Since the approval of the site plan, there have been concerns vocalized by residents about the gas station use. The use of gas station is still an allowed use in the neighborhood commercial zoning district in today's zoning ordinance. This plan is within the first 3-year period and is vested until August 26, 2024. If the vesting period is not extended, the project entitlements would cease to exist, stop work orders would be issued if applicable, a new site plan would need to be approved and would be reviewed against the current local development standards. In reviewing the plan against the current city regulations, the current plan generally complies. The differences in today's zoning ordinance versus their vested ordinance of 12/8/2020 are minor and could be incorporated into the design without major changes to the plan, but the applicant would still need to request a variance to reduce the transitional buffer in order to align the entrance to the site with Carruthers Parkway. If a new site plan were submitted, all the proposed uses on the site plan, including the use of gas station, are still allowed uses in the neighborhood commercial zoning district. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve Resolution 2024-60 if they determine that the continuation of vested rights is in the best interest of the community.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this item? All right. Seeing none, do we have an applicant that would like to talk about it?
Hi, my name is Greg Gamble, landscape architect and land planner representing Lockwood Joint Venture. A lot of time you get these requests for extensions without understanding what has been going on over the past 3 years. This site plan was approved with conditions on August the 28th, 2021. One of those conditions of approval stated that all off-site easements and right-of-way to be acquired prior to the grading permit. This proposed development on 5.5 acres is required to install a new turn lane on McHatcher Parkway install a traffic signal at the intersection of Carruthers Parkway and South Carruthers Road, and install a new sewer line extension that will allow for those properties north of it access to the City of Franklin sewer. This is quite a bit of an undertaking. Upon approaching the property owners to the north, they were very curious as to what their property could be developed as, what the potential for their property could be, what their current policy was in Envision Franklin. That resulted in about an 18-month delay as they sought together an Envision Franklin plan amendment requesting neighborhood commercial. Y'all may recall. Upon completion of the Envision Franklin plan process, the neighbors agreed to the easements, and those were recorded on August the 1st, 2023. And then come to find out that the Board of Zoning Appeals variance that was approved to get the driveway to align with South Carruthers Road had expired. So back to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a new variance request, which was approved in December of 2023. Then to find out that the final plat had expired, and back to the Planning Commission with a new final plat for reapproval. Currently, the bids are expected to come in the coming days. Grading work to start very soon. Without this extension, all of the hard work, effort, costs to purchase these easements would go out the window. We appreciate your consideration tonight. This is for a 2-year extension. Wanted to make sure that that was mentioned, and happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve the extension.
All right.
Second.
Have a motion and a proper second. Discussion? Anybody have any thoughts on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll go to the vote. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison is absent, Commissioner Lindsay is absent, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye, Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Item number 11 passes. All right. Item 12, consideration of ordinance 2024-20, an ordinance to rezone 192.688 acres from agricultural AG district to planned PD 4.34/103,750/75 district for the property located west of McHatcher Memorial Parkway and east of Old Charlotte Pike East, located at 1740 New Highway 96 West and known as the Armistead PUD subdivision. Staff?
Thank you. The applicant has submitted a rezoning request for the 192.688 acres located west of McHatcher Memorial Parkway and east of Old Charlotte Pike East. The applicant is requesting to rezone from agricultural AG district to planned PD 4.34, 103,750 and 75 district to accommodate the proposed Armistead PUD subdivision. The development is proposed with 837 dwelling units consisting of single-family detached, townhome, multiplex, multifamily farm compound, and courtyard residential units, 103,750 square feet of non-residential space, and 75 hotel keys. This rezoning request was initially submitted and reviewed under a previously approved version of Envision Franklin. And that version of Envision Franklin placed this property in two design concepts that include conservation subdivision and neighborhood mixed use. The conservation subdivision design concept states that new development should preserve a minimum of 50% open space, strategically targeted towards scenic vistas, greenways, pastures, trails, woodlands, or other uses that maintain scenic character, protect habitat value, and contribute to the quality of life for residents. The primary use for conservation subdivision is single family. There is a special consideration within the design concept of conservation subdivision for properties west of MacHatcher and north of Old Charlotte Pike. It supports complementary and ancillary non-residential uses integrated into an agri-hood design. Specifically, it supports one farm market cafe / restaurant located as a community amenity. It also supports 10 to 20 small scale office, live work units and or makers spaces incorporated into townhome and big house areas of this portion of the plan. The neighborhood mixed use design concept states that the neighborhood mixed use design concept provides a diverse mix of high activity uses with a connected and walkable block layout. These centers and corridors should have coordinated development patterns at a pedestrian scale with high-quality architecture, plazas, sidewalks, and pedestrian and bicycle amenities to activate the street and connect these gathering places to the residential neighborhoods that they support. The primary uses for neighborhood mixed use include institutional, local, commercial, multifamily residential, professional office, townhouses, and transitional office. There is a special consideration within the neighborhood mixed-use design concept for properties west of MacHatcher Parkway and north of Highway 96. This special consideration was specifically requested for what would be a proposed agri-hood and states that areas of neighborhood mixed-use development as an agri-hood are appropriate at the northwest quadrant of the intersection of MacHatcher Parkway and New Highway 96 West as a transition between the mixed uses established at West Haven Town Center and the agricultural uses found throughout the West Harpeth Basin. An agri-hood is defined as a farm-focused, mixed-use development that incorporates a working farm. At the historic farm, buildings near the intersection of New Highway 96 and MacHatcher Parkway, buildings should maintain their agricultural character, but they may be repurposed for agricultural-related uses and enterprises. New buildings and additions may be appropriate to support the agri-hood that complement and do not overwhelm or detract from the historic structures. This area is intended to be accessed primarily by pedestrian and general vehicular traffic, should be avoided. However, minimal farm or house-related vehicular traffic may access the area by gravel, dirt, or grass drive aisles, as is consistent with existing agricultural character. Development should strive for dark sky compliance and should utilize low light levels rather than typical commercial lighting standards. The village core of the agri-hood should establish a main street commercial area intended to be comprised of neighborhood scale commercial uses as well as niche uses like maker spaces, a farmer's market, artist studios, and other similar uses that are complementary to local farming. This neighborhood scale commercial is encouraged to utilize residential above the commercial to activate and support the retail environment. However, standalone multifamily buildings are appropriate and should be limited to 2 to 3 stories in height with 6 to 10 units per structure. Neighborhood mixed use in this area may also include a boutique inn with up to 20 rooms and farmstay cottages for rent. Both the inn and the cottage should not exceed 2 stories in height, and the inn should have unique architecture that fits contextually into the agri-hood. Cottages should be designed in character with single-family residential and the agricultural character of the neighborhood and should serve as a secondary use. The inn's accessory uses may include a cafe, a restaurant, or other food and beverage service. Other secondary uses could include an outdoor wedding and a special event venue, as well as an indoor event venue if associated impacts of these uses are deemed acceptable through a BOMA approval of a development plan and a rezoning. Sorry about that. The proposed rezoning meets the guiding principles of both design concepts and the special considerations that apply within Envision Franklin. In addition to reviewing for consistency with Envision Franklin, city staff also reviews proposed development project impacts on city infrastructure. Traffic continues to be the #1 quality of life concern for Franklin residents. As presented to the Joint Conceptual Workshop on June 27th of 2024, there are extreme delays in the study area that do not meet the City of Franklin's level of service requirement. Staff received feedback at that meeting that the Planning Commission and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen may support this development even with the delays identified in the study area. Separate from this informal feedback, staff's role is to report when projects are not fully addressing our approved development standards. Therefore, staff must still recommend disapproval given the lack of level of service standards being met at the intersections of Hillsborough Road and Mac Hatcher and Franklin Road and Mac Hatcher. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to disapprove ordinance 2024-20. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone from the public like to comment on this item? I have 2 cards as of now. We'll begin with David Short.
One point of clarification, this is totally my fault. The meeting with Joints Conceptual was the May meeting on the 23rd.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Short, and I stand before you this evening to represent the Short family.
Please state your address as well, please.
Yes, 1740 Highway 96.
Thank you.
Our family has farmed this land since 1887. My father, Jesse Short, was the 4th Jesse Short in a long line to farm this property, and dedicated over half a century to nurturing the land and instilling in us a deep respect for its history and potential. Over the years, our family has witnessed significant changes on the west side of Franklin. We've seen development explode, exemplified by the completion of Mac Hatcher along our eastern border of property. With these changes, we knew it was time to think carefully about the future of our land and how it fits into the evolving landscape of our city. We were involved very much with the Envision Franklin process with our neighbors in that western basin, and really sought out a way to work with our neighbors, layer things back, let the farms that want to remain farms be there, but also collaborate to see what can be done that would honor our past while embracing the reality of the future of Franklin. Our plan focuses on preserving open spaces and building upon the agricultural heritage that's been our cornerstone of our family for generations, all while addressing growing housing needs within Franklin. Creating a diverse, walkable agri-hood may not be the easiest approach, but it's the approach that aligns with the values and the legacy that we wish to leave for the city of Franklin and for future generations from our family. We believe that this development plan not only respects our family's heritage, but also contributes positively to the community we've been a part of for so long. We ask for your support in approving this plan, not just for what it means to us as a family, but for what it can mean to the future of Franklin. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Cindy Bechuska. Hope I pronounced that correctly.
Hi, I'm Cindy Vahuska. I live at 5315 Indian Valley on the west side of Franklin. I'm here to actually voice my objections to the project on the Short Farm. Mr. Short was friends with my parents' neighbor, Mr. Perry. And several years ago, on a Saturday morning walk, I went from my parents' place down past Mr. Perry's. I stopped to chat with him and Mr. Short, who had pulled up in his pickup. We talked about Mr. Perry's family land that has now become part of West Haven. And I asked Mr. Short, I said, how do you feel about all that development across the street? Do you plan on preserving your property? Are you okay with development? And I clearly remember his answer. He told me, he said he wasn't sure about the back part of the property, but he did say he would like to preserve the front 90. He said he mentioned putting it in a land trust, and I was happy to hear it at the time. Sadly, it appears that wasn't the case with this proposed project. When I read the article on the local news website about the proposed development for the farm, needless to say, I was personally disappointed. The rate at which farmland in our county is being developed is alarming. The Haber Farm on Old Hillsborough is currently under development, and I worry about all the land along the Mac Hatcher corridor. Those fields produce food for all of us. I know we can't stop progress. Everyone wants to come here. It's a wonderful place to live. It's beautiful. Our taxes are great. But it seems like when people come here, the first thing that they want to do, they want to have a carbon copy of where they came from. They want their retail stores, their high-priced restaurants, their Starbucks on every corner. I said, this development seems to have a little bit of all of that, plus a hotel, which probably is my biggest objection to this project. 96 West, until West Haven was put in, was basically a rural crossroads between Hillsborough Road and Highway 100. It was made up of farms and single-family residences. What possible reason do we need a hotel on what was once a rural corridor? I can't think of any reasons. We have no amusement parks, no museums. We don't have any sports complexes, any event venues, or any access to interstates in that portion of 96. Let's keep our hotels up by the interstate and up by Cool Springs. If the property has to be developed, let's try to limit it to residential, full-time residential, with the designated green spaces for our wildlife and walking trails. Now-
Ma'am, your 2 minutes is up. Please have a closing statement.
Okay, well, I'm not naive to believe my voice is going to make much of a difference. But just when you all go home tonight, just keep this in mind. Not only think about the short term, but let's think about our long-term impact. Land is finite, it's irreplaceable. We can't make new land. We've got to take a stand now, preserve for our future generations a bit of what makes our county so beautiful. I hope that all the landowners along Mac Hatcher Corridor will consider land trust, conservation easements, and possibly leasing their lands to other farmers. It's okay to say no to development, otherwise we all live on concrete. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Ud. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly.
No worries, I'm used to it. My name's Chris Udy.
Udy.
I reside at 222 Pearl Street in West Haven, along with my wife Allison, who's here tonight, and our two daughters. And this is exciting. As a former planning commissioner and a resident of West Haven for the last 18 years, I've had a close view of how the west side of Franklin has evolved and how it continues to grow. And I've been very interested in what might become of the Short Farm one day. When the Armistead project was first proposed, I was immediately struck by the level of public engagement and the thoughtful approach that was taken by the Short family and their development partners. They've made a commitment to preserve the agricultural roots of this land, something I know many of us deeply appreciate. Additionally, they've introduced diverse housing options that will help the needs of a growing population while maintaining the character of our community. One of the many aspects I'm excited about is the walkability and connectivity that's been built into the design. Creating spaces where people can easily walk to restaurants, parks, and other amenities is essential for fostering a strong, connected community, as we have experienced living in West Haven. This is something that will add tremendous value, not just to the new residents, but to those of us who have been here for years. Plus, I think we can all benefit from knowing where our food comes from with the agricultural component. I realize the development on this side of town is necessary to keep up with demand, and I can't imagine a better way to set the standard for what this corridor can become. Armistead is a project that brings thoughtful growth, respects the heritage of the land, and enhances the quality of life for all of us in the area and in Franklin as a whole. I fully support this project, and I urge you to do the same. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this item? State your name and address, please.
My name's Allison Harmon, and I live at 4121 New Highway 96 West. I wasn't planning on speaking today. I've been in Nashville for 7 years. My husband was raised in Burns, Tennessee. We live a mile and a half between, from the Natchez Trace, between 100 and the Natchez Trace. Since the time we have moved there, the traffic has steadily increased. We live on 5 acres. We can't even sit on our back porch without hearing traffic. I can just imagine what another mega neighborhood like West Haven is going to do. I'm sorry, it's just another West Haven 2.0. Where's the affordable housing also for people moving in? I just don't understand how all this farmland is growing, just seems to be eaten up by all the people moving in. And as far as the school zones, that would create another problem. I hope if it does come to fruition, that they have a plan like they did for West Haven, where they created their own elementary school and then they went to Independence for high school and middle school at Old Hillsborough.
All right, thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, do I have an applicant presentation?
Thank you. I'm Brian Wright. I'm here to speak on behalf of the development team. We've got a lot of slides, so I'm going to go quick. I know we've done joint conceptual workshops, and you guys are probably pretty familiar with what we're proposing, but I know there's lots of new people in the audience, and so I'd like for them to learn a little bit about what we're up to as well. So, and also some of our other, like David talked about the family already. So, but these are the shorts. They've been here for a long time, since 1887. The site is very interesting because this is an image in 1997 when there was no West Haven, there was no Carlisle, no Franklin Green, just the shorts out here and the Gentrys and a few others. This is it today. You see West Haven down here, and growth is happening. We have a new neighbor coming in here, Hamilton Place, as well. And so that's how we kind of tie in. As Chelsea recited, without any errors, which was amazing. That's a lot to read without slipping up. I felt like she was reading a description of our project. So we've been quite fastidious about trying to make sure we're following Envision Franklin and all of the conservation subdivision and neighborhood areas as well. There also is a plan, Connect Franklin, the long-term transportation plan, and the city has these dash yellow lines running through our property, and so we're trying to figure out how to make sure that we can help accomplish those long-term transportation goals as part of our project as well. If you haven't been on the land, it has these beautiful buildings. You can see from a lot of them from the road, especially the silo. We are a designated Century Farm, and so our intent is to keep these buildings and repurpose them and do amazing things and make them accessible. We had a week-long public design charrette or workshop where the whole process was open to the public before we even put pen to paper, and we did design the whole project in front of the community with input all throughout. So that's quite unique, and what a way to start a unique project as well. And you actually may see there's a lot of green shirts in here, and so a lot of these people are people who came to the charrette process or have learned about what we're doing along the way. We always hear about the red shirts that show up against a project, so it might be something new to have green shirts. Our project pillars, a diversity of housing types. We just heard about concerns for affordability, and so that's something we've been taking seriously. We'll talk about that in a second. Preserving the legacy of farming, so that it's really meaningful to know where the food comes from. The cradle to grave living, as well as historic preservation moving forward. Our why, we have our mission and vision and core values, which is probably different than a lot of subdivisions that might come through. We're a community, not just a subdivision. So you can study those as we go forward in the future. The development plan is set up. We have Highway 96 at the bottom here, Matt Catcher, that got cut through all the farms, and so sort of opened up the potential for development. We have it set up on the north side of Old Charlotte that comes through here, 4 different hamlets, each of them with an identifiable center or little neighborhood park. And some of the townhouses and the small multifamily that were mentioned kind of surrounding those green spaces, as well as larger single-family detached houses, as you would see moving out from each of those hamlets. Moving down to the south, Old Charlotte, we have proposed, because we didn't want to ruin it with these beautiful hedgerows, we would have had to get rid of them if we brought it up to city standards. So we're converting it into a multi-use trail and preserving the hedgerows and actually bringing them back where they got cut down for Matt Catcher. And so the traffic, when you come in off Matt Catcher, you go north or south. Moving into the south, we have our mixed-use town center area here with all sorts of really cool pedestrian infrastructure, mix of residential above, multifamily. The inn and cottages that are mentioned in Envision Franklin are shown in purple. And then we have another hamlet over here. There's a beautiful stream that runs right through the property right now. It's been farmed right up to the edge with a small crust of trees that have been left, so we want to reforest that and do habitat restoration. As well as, you'll notice all of this around here is productive agriculture at large scale, small scale, medium scale, everything in between. And we have that wide range of housing. We've broken it up into multiple phases that will come online one by one, hopefully starting with our town center and some of the mixed use areas. So that amenity comes in and then quickly moving into some of the hamlets up there. The dwellings, you guys heard the total number of units, but the point of this slide is to show how it's broken up into different things. We even have all the way down to tiny houses and farmhand housing as part of what we're doing, so we get the more affordability as part of it, and then a wide mix of commercial uses as well. Our conservation and sustainability concept is quite robust. You'll notice that our 50% open space that we're required for the conservation subdivision is broken up into different types of open space. So we end up with more than 50% open space right now, and it's broken up into natural areas for the habitat restoration, agricultural areas, parks, plazas, green spaces, as well as the old farm being turned into a farm park that I'll describe in a minute. We also have a highly advanced sustainable stormwater system, so utilizing those open spaces to naturally infiltrate and bring our stormwater into these different locations, having green streets so that the stormwater becomes beautiful as well as functional. Sorry, I'm talking so fast. I only have a few minutes. Our circulation network is quite robust. This is pedestrian circulation, bicycle circulation. So we've got sidewalks, rural paths, what's called a VUNRA for a shared street where pedestrians are prioritized, and then our multi-use trail on Old Charlotte here. So you'll imagine there's a massive network of walking and biking opportunities. The design elements that are key to us: preserving the existing tree canopy. We're required to preserve 54%. We're actually at 83%. So the only places we're trying to get rid of any trees is where a road cuts through. We've got also want to have trails, gardens, public art that's all rural in its character, community amenities that feel rural and tap into that. Dark skies, having light fixtures that protect against light pollution, having natural playgrounds that feel like they're part of the landscape. Having in our neighborhood center areas of mix of uses, having a variety of housing types from large single family to multi-families that look like single family houses to tiny houses, cottage courts, duplexes, row houses, everything in between. And then we wanted to have a distinctive architectural style, and so we've been looking at what that could look like. What is the Armistead style? So here you see some townhouses. Here's the front of the inn, some live work buildings, some of the mixed use on our main street. And these are just sketches we did early on during the charrette. We want to turn the historic farm area into a farm park. So like Harlansdale is a farm park, but it's a park that looks like a farm. This is actually going to be functional farm. So you might be sitting at the playground with your kid and somebody's walking by with a produce cart taking it over to the wash shed to deal with that. We've got demonstration gardens, education gardens for school outings, as well as event spaces, et cetera. The farm itself, you hear the term agrihood. Agrihood is short for agricultural neighborhood. For us, it can't be just a decoration. The agriculture has to be as important as the development side of things so that it is going to be meaningful and productive along the way and a part of the lifestyle of living here. Additionally, we want to become a food hub, an agricultural hub, so even producers, farmers around the area can use our facilities for value-added products or prepping their produce, et cetera. Having all these different types of elements of the farm are important, so it's not just large, swaths of crops. So having education as well as bees and incubators for people who want to get into farming. So our big concept we call from seed to serve. So all the steps along the way, you've heard farm to table is just a seed to serve. And then some views of Armistead. If you've not seen the renderings, this is a view looking up Highway 96. This is Front Street right here. So we have a connection to Front Street. This is all the historic farm buildings in the farm park. Our pedestrian priority street, our main street area comes along here. This is the old farmhouse, and then fields, a new barn up in the front there, et cetera. This is a view of the North Hamlets. So here's one hamlet, another hamlet, and then these massive green spaces, parks, as well as agriculture happening right up in front of next to houses. Couple more slides. This is a view down that shared street. Here they're bringing the sheep in for the day, and so you might be sitting at the cafe and the sheep pass by and everybody gets a chuckle. This is another view into a potential town center area. And then this is my favorite image. This is Old Charlotte. I took this picture 17 years ago. This is what it used to look like, and this is what we're proposing. Multi-use trail here, keeping the hedgerows, bringing them back in, and so this actually doesn't show our roundabout. We have to add that in, but you can even see houses here right up against the agriculture and then the town center in the distance. These are some of our streets. A lot of time, we did our design workshop over a year ago, and so basically all the things that we're looking at from the plan and the views, those are all things we did during that design charrette. What we've been doing for the past year is working with staff to figure out how in the world to do such a innovative and unique project. So we've had to get into some details. So this is what what we call a country road might look like between some of our hamlets. You're looking at a sort of a typical neighborhood street here with our sustainable stormwater. Here's a street that's facing into agriculture. Another view, there's a town center with agriculture next to it. And all of the greenery along the way are part of our stormwater system. Oops, sorry. This is our shared street. I was talking about, so you see a car coming down, but it kind of weaves through, and there's people sitting out and whatnot. So anyway, we had a series of MOSs that we can talk about in detail, but they're sort of some of the, there we go, perfect. The important part was done, but we have MOS information, we have traffic information, anything you want to talk about, we've got our team here. We can go through the details however you all want. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I got to make a statement. I've been friends with the Short family all my life. Our family attended church, some of the Shorts did. And I just want to put that on the record and let you know I'm be voting on this project.
All right.
I also, my parents lived on that property many years ago before I was born, so I'm familiar with the Short family as well. Just wanted to note it for record.
And I also went to school with Jimmy Short from first grade and graduated with him from high school, so first through 12th grade. But I will be voting on this, so
All
I
right.
can keep that separate.
So as I will also.
Would anybody like to make a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Proper motion, second discussion.
I have
go
a
ahead.
question. Has there been a traffic study done?
That was my question.
Can I'm so sorry, and maybe this isn't necessary, but can I clarify what the motion's for? Because staff was recommending disapproval, so are you recommending approval of staff's recommendation?
Could, Jimmy, you clarify your
I'm
motion?
representing, motion to approve the rezoning.
Okay.
Okay.
And whoever seconded that is in agreement with
Yeah.
an approval?
Yes.
Okay. To the board and mayor and alderman.
To,
You ready?
is there a traffic study?
Yes, quite detailed, and Megan can talk about it. And just to take us back in the Wayback Machine for a second here, we, when we had that joint conceptual workshop, we talked about traffic, and sort of the determination was there's a larger scale sort of regional issue that needs to be sorted out, and we were instructed to kind of proceed, knowing that, we're likely to have this discussion. And so the motion for denial, or the recommendation for denial, is not a surprise. We all expected that. So you want to talk about the traffic study?
Well,
Do you have any specific questions about it? Yes is the answer.
Yeah,
We do have-
well,
I mean, I guess my specific questions are the intersection of Mac Hatcher and Highway 96 West, what's its current status, as well as Mac Hatcher, Hillsborough Road intersection, what's that current status? And then what's the additional impact that this is intended?
And can I ask clarification? Are you asking that question of staff
yes.
or of the applicant? Would you prefer to ask that question of staff or the applicant? Just for clarification.
I don't know that I have a preference. I guess I'm just curious.
You can go ahead. She has the information probably
I
at
guess,
hand, so.
if staff can more easily answer what the current status is, that's.
I can elaborate.
Let the
as
question
needed.
be for both.
She's got the info.
Yeah.
Staff.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so at Megan Sigler with KCI Technologies, by the way. At Mac Hatcher and Hillsborough, it's currently a D in the AM, and we, with improvements, have it projected as an E in 2030. And then, one moment, let me get over to the
Did you say it's currently a D or a C?
It's
No.
currently a D, going to be an E with
C going to be an
improvements.
E, okay.
No,
E.
no. E. E is in Edward, going down to an E as in Edward.
It's going to go
Okay.
down.
It is currently a D.
Currently D.
D, yeah. D is in Delta. Hold on.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, yes.
thank you.
And then in the PM, it is currently an F. And we looked at it two ways. We looked at it with no improvements to the bridge, and we also looked at it with improvements to the bridge. With no improvements to the bridge, it remains an F. We were able to, with some improvements, get it close to what we call background, which is future without this development. So we were able to mitigate this development's traffic, but it's still failing. But it's failing today.
Okay. And
Oh,
are
in
the-
order to get it below an F, in order to get it down to like an E, essentially you need an extra lane on the bridge, so you can have two westbound travel lanes. Right now, there's only one.
And that's the Hillsborough Road,
Yes.
Mac Hatcher intersection.
And are there any off-site road improvements as part of this? I'm sure there's turn lanes, but help if you could walk me through that.
Sure.
Currently, they're planning on widening Highway 96 between Mac Hatcher and Front Street. So there will be two westbound travel lanes. And then they are also planning on extending the current southbound right turn lane from Franklin Road to Mac Hatcher.
Okay.
That still goes as.
And
And then also updating all of the signal timings in the area.
are there going to be any signals added where, could I see that on the site plan, and I see some head shaking, yes, where the development has access to Mac Hatcher? Will that be a lighted access?
No, the access directly to Mac Hatcher is right in, right out only, so it's not a full access.
Okay.
The one on 96 that connects to Front Street to Front Street via West Haven, that is where a planned signal is happening.
Okay.
And if I may
Chair.
elaborate, if
Go ahead. No,
Okay,
you go ahead. I wanted to hear from staff.
And we looked at this a long time, and we heard from the board and planning commission at the joint conceptual workshop. We were happy that everyone seemed happy with the plan, and we are too. It's a great use. It's a great plan for this area. However, our guidelines are what they are, and we will end up, not strictly because of this development, but it does add 9,000 trips to the network. We'll end up with a mile-long queue for the westbound approach at Hillsborough and Mac Hatcher. So that's why we're recommending disapproval. It's because our standards say what they say, and that's not up to us to decide a failing intersection should continue to have more trips added to it.
Chair, if I might. Sure. And that's what I wanted to clarify. Definitely want to clarify at our May meeting, because I want to make sure that I'm getting old, but I'm not getting senile yet. That we did, and I said, I'm going to speak for Marsha Allen, that I absolutely love this project, and I do. But if my mind wasn't failing me, we did want to see what the traffic study said, because we thought that it was going to be kind of iffy. And then we wanted to see what the traffic study said. And I have not seen the traffic study or heard it until tonight. But everybody was pretty much in favor of this. But I will say to you, I cannot in good faith, as much as I love this project, I cannot vote for it when we're already at E, which is one step from F, and we're going to be at F. Now, if we could phase it, if it could be phased and improved upon, maybe. But I just can't, not in good conscience, do that, because we have to, I have to. I'm going to speak for me. I think we should. But if we do that, what are we doing? Mile-long queues, an existing E, go into an F, even with improvements. I just can't in good conscience do it, as much as I love this. Now, maybe if we could say, build first phase and we can improve, build second phase, but I just can't, and I love this. I'm ecstatic about it, but I just can't. And if you vote no, well, I'd actually be voting with staff, but if you vote against something, according to legal, we have to say why. Right. And I'm saying, as much as it pains me, I love this. I would like to have it right next door to me, but I just can't.
Just for clarification's sake, I just want to make sure that it's notated, because I didn't say it in my rezoning. I will say it in my development plan. This is a phased project. There are 6 phases. That doesn't mean that their updates will change, but that's just for your reference.
But Mac Hatcher's been being built since I was on the Board of Mayor and Alderman in the 90s, and it still hasn't been done yet. And so with these two, Mac Hatcher and Franklin Road and Hillsborough Road, unless somebody's coming through with a new road, even when it's complete, we were saying we were going to have an F. So unless somebody comes up with something new, when it's done, where are we? So that's why I'm saying, we have to go with what we have now. And I would love for somebody to come through with a new Miracle Road, but I'm just, as much as I love it, unless somebody comes up with something else, I'll be glad to hear it.
Well, if it's 300 acres and something is going to be developed, and it's going to get, it's already worse, so it's going to get worse no matter whatever is going to be developed. So I love the project. I think it's an amazing new concept for this area. We've never had anything like this, and it has so many elements that's good for the community, the affordable housing element and things like that. And I'm concerned about the traffic as well, but if there's any way that we can figure out how we can move this project forward in phases, I will definitely be supporting it.
Commissioner
Mr.
Williams?
Chairman, I got a comment.
I'll come back to you.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and I'd just say too, the biggest concern about this is the traffic. Be absolutely clear on that, number one concern. I see this so long-term that, I might be getting a lot more gray hair. I might be old by the time anything happens more with Mac Hatcher, and I do understand that. But, how long is that? 40 years before something moves on that. And in the next 40 years, what are we going to see? Likely something
Right.
will be developed, even if it is just single family. And that will also be traffic.
Yes.
And I think that this is a very unique opportunity that probably doesn't come along that often. And so it is tough because you have this traffic, but you also have this unique opportunity for, to rezone this and have this opportunity happen. I think, there was discussion about perhaps there are some improvements they can do on the existing bridge to at least get it back to background. I think, everything in the toolbox needs to be looked at. I think phasing could actually be critical to this because we might be looking at 40, maybe even 50 years for all this infrastructure to actually get to where, when you build a road and you open it and just a couple of years later it's failing, it was like more than needed. And we know that we need a lot more than that. But I do see this kind of as an opportunity that if it's not acted on now, it's going to slip away. And we're going to end up with kind of a field of housing and the same traffic issue.
Right.
And it's just going to come in a different form, in a different package, and a different wrapper. So,
Is there any way, just a question, and I'll leave this alone. Is there any way instead of 837, is there any way to make it less? Can we have less to make it where it's not an F, where we can live with an E instead of where we could have a half-mile wait or a three-quarter-mile wait? Is there any way? Is there just any way? Because I agree with this being an opportunity. Is there any way to make it less?
Well, eventually, the folks that are causing that traffic issue will find another way.
Well, yeah.
The same way they did before Mac Hatcher was
Absolutely.
open.
Well, yeah.
So Commissioner Franks, you had a question or comment?
Well, you'd like to quantify the impact fees and increased fees that we're adopting. How much of that is allocated for roads and streets and the eventual four-lane widening of Mac Hatcher? I
Well,
know it's millions and millions and millions of dollars that'll be coming in. Does it go into a general fund or is it earmarked for?
It's in the impact fee fund, so it is specifically, arterial roadway would be used for
Right.
arterial roadway. So
So there's money to improve the stacking possibly and, on the shorter term basis. This project will take years to build. But as those revenues and fees come in, I see, we'll be sure that's utilized properly and
we are pushing TDOT very hard to invest in Franklin and Williamson County. As you all know, there's no projects on the 10-year plan at the moment. Speaking to people finding another way, no one's going to probably sit in that much traffic. They'll probably go do what they used to do, which was cut through downtown, which may be acceptable, but again, our standards are what they are, so that's where staff is coming from.
Right. Anyone else have any comments? Points for discussion?
I think my comment, I asked questions, but I'm aligned with Marcia here. I mean, I love the project, but, and I know it's not this project's fault the roads are failing. It's a situation of kind of being the next development opportunity and inheriting failing roads. But, you know, I just can't, I'm having a really hard time supporting any project that's going to add this much volume to failing roads. I think we have to figure out that piece. And so I just don't think I can recommend to BOMA to rezone this property to allow for that.
Okay.
If BOMA can figure out a way to increase the transportation system around this development, I'm all for it.
Me too.
But that is the sole reason why I can't support it at this time.
Right.
Anyone else?
Well, I'd just like to say, I think the family owes been on this project a long, long time, and it's much better than, 1,000 houses, single-family houses going out there.
Yes.
If you travel to the city we went to, Serenby, you would see that hotel, you'd see, but it blended in, you'd see all that live and work and their connective trails that they have. These people gonna stay at home, they're gonna work at home, a lot of them. And so it's just it's a unique project that we were sold on. Our 50 of us from the city of Franklin that went and visited Serenby, and we were very honored to bring it in. So I think that although we may be split here, BOMA is going to have to take this issue up, and I think we owe it to the family to push this up to BOMA and let BOMA decide what the issues are on the traffic and on the density of the project, et cetera.
Okay.
I mean, we certainly hear a lot about working from home, and I agree with that. And that's the whole purpose of the neighborhood, to keep people contained to the neighborhood. But the reality is also that they're going to have children. These are going to be families. They got to go to school. As you all experienced over the past 2 weeks, traffic changed dramatically when school starts. And that's going to happen here. And so the one thing that this development doesn't have, and I'm not saying it should have, is a school. So the reality is that everybody's going to leave at the exact same time to go to school or to work off-site. And that's a problem that I think needs to be addressed before I don't want 1,000 homes either. But I just struggle with any development like that.
Okay. Question for the applicant. What schools will this development be zoned for? Do you know that?
It's Walnut Creek Elementary. Walnut Grove, right, thank you.
Come on.
It's Walnut Grove Elementary, Franklin High, and Grassland Middle.
Okay.
Grassland Middle. And just real quickly, the traffic study was completed before our January special joint conceptual on this, and so we did talk about this with this body and BOMA, and we kind of went through this and looked at it, and what we heard was that, if you're going to not allow this development, then you can't really allow any development on the west side of Franklin heretofore. And that's where we're really trying to create something that really does try and keep people in, and really create an opportunity for people not to have to leave, and to create opportunities for not just a mass exodus and a mass entrance. And that's what mixed use new urbanism really is all about. So that's just a point to make.
All right. Any more discussion?
Staff had to do what it had to do, but I think this is an excellent project, and I will be supporting it.
Okay. Well, I have a proper motion for approval recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and a second. If there's no more discussion, we'll vote on that as said. Commissioner Allen,
Nay.
Commissioner Franks,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison is absent, Commissioner Lindsay is absent, Commissioner Mann,
No.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye, Commissioner Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. 5-2. Item number 12 passes. Item number 13, consideration of resolution 2024-43, a resolution approving a development plan for Armistead PUD subdivision with 9 modifications of development standards, scenic corridor overlay landscape, building types, pedestrian circulation, minimum parking, open space, and signage for the property located at west of McHatcher Memorial Parkway and east of Old Charlotte Pike, located at 1740 New Highway 96 West. Staff?
Thank you. Bear with me. This one is kind of longer than the last one. I will say I printed off a cheat sheet for you, and I will kind of direct you when to reference that. So give me just 1 second. So the applicant has submitted a development plan for Armistead PUD subdivision. This plan, Armstead, is a placemaking opportunity that engages the history of the short farm to create a unique development that's rural while also providing amenities that keep the agricultural spirit alive. The applicant has been dedicated to working with the city to apply the zoning ordinance appropriately and diligently. As previously stated within the rezoning staff report, the development plan was initially submitted and reviewed under a previously approved version of Envision Franklin, and that version of Envision Franklin places this property in 2 design concepts that include conservation subdivision and neighborhood mixed use. The proposed plan meets the guiding principles of Envision Franklin and is appropriate for both special considerations within the neighborhood mixed use and conservation subdivision design concepts. A parking study has been submitted that analyzes the parking needed throughout the development in comparison to the requirements of the zoning ordinance. The applicant has incorporated shared parking that will be utilized specifically within the town center portion of the Armistead development. The applicant is only proposing shared parking within the town center in conjunction with a modification of standard request for a reduction in minimum parking requirements for multifamily, townhouse, and multiplex. The shared parking study meets the requirements of Chapter 10, which outlines an alternative parking plan may be utilized with shared parking by 2 or more uses with different operational characteristics and peak hours of demand. On July 9th, staff led a discussion at BOMA work session regarding the modification to the city's street standards being proposed by the developer. Based on the feedback provided, staff has worked with the applicant and now are generally in agreement with all of the requests. More detail will be needed at site plan prior to the final approval of the modification of engineering standards and the corresponding construction documents. Traffic, however, continues to be the #1 quality of life concern for Franklin residents. As presented at the Joint Conceptual Workshop in May, there are extreme delays in the study area that do not meet the City of Franklin's level of service requirements. Separate from this informal feedback, staff's role is to report when projects are not fully addressing our approved development standards. Therefore, staff must still recommend disapprovals given the lack of level of service standards being met at the intersections of Hillsborough Road and McHatcher and Franklin Road and McHatcher. Okay, modifications of standards. So there are 9 modifications of standard requests for this plan. Modification number 1 is requesting a modification of standard to permit agricultural plantings such as fields and orchards instead of the required tree plantings consistent with the existing rural character of Franklin. So Chapter 4.9.5 of the zoning ordinance states that street trees are not required along the scenic corridor. Instead, there shall be 20-foot landscape easement along the entire length of frontage along the scenic corridor with the following plantings: a minimum of 3 canopy trees and 3 understory trees for every 100 linear feet. In overhead easements, utility easements, understory trees may be substituted for canopy trees. B, trees placed informally or coordinated with fencing and planted pursuant to Section 12.9 planting standards. The existing rural character of the area does support their request for agricultural plantings as an acceptable substitute for this plan. So staff is recommending approval of MOS number 1. MOS number 2. They are requesting a modification of standard to allow buildings within the CD4V, which is what they are referring to as their village center, to be at an angle from the frontage to create more interest along the streetscape and the ability to have more open space in front of a building. So Chapter 6.7 and 6.8 of the zoning ordinance states that the front facade shall parallel the frontage. 6.7, and that the building shall parallel the frontage. 6.8. That was 6.7, and that the following with 6.8. The applicant is requesting to allow buildings within CD4V or the Village Town Center to be at an angle from the frontage to create more interest along the streetscape, and also allow the ability to have open space in the front of the building. The CD4V area is specifically identified as the focus of mixed-use activity as Armistead's Village Center and the area of the plan within the neighborhood mixed-use design concept. The request is consistent with other rural areas near the city of Franklin, and in addition, it does add rural character specific to the proposed project. With that said, staff is recommending approval of MOS number 2. MOS number 3, requesting a modification of standards to create a farm compound building type that's consistent with the farmstead compound within the Conservation Subdivision Design Concept and Envision Franklin. The applicant's requesting to create the farm compound building type to be consistent with the farmstead compound within the Conservation Subdivision Design Concept and Envision Franklin. There is not currently a building type within Chapter 6 of our zoning ordinance that coincides with farmstead compound, which is found in Envision Franklin. The applicant hopes to utilize this aspect of Envision Franklin and is requesting to apply their created building type to accomplish this. Staff recommends approval of MOS number 3. MOS number 4, requesting a modification of standard to allow sidewalks only on one side of public and private streets. Chapter 9.6.1A states that sidewalks and curbs shall be required on both sides of public and private streets and internal drives except along McHatcher Parkway or I-65. The applicant has identified the locations where they intend to provide only one side of sidewalk in order to preserve a more rural feel within the development. The proposed locations are specified on sheet C4.10, which is in the larger packet, are only requested in areas where streets are adjacent to agricultural fields or natural areas. The applicant will still provide pedestrian circulation in the form of a rural path outside of the right-of-way on the side of the street adjacent to these agricultural and natural areas. So staff is recommending approval of MOS number 4. MOS number 5. They're requesting a modification of standard to allow PROAG compliant rural path in place of a sidewalk for buildings in courtyards and SCO frontage. PROAG is Public Right-of-Way Accessibility Guidelines. So in section 9.6.1, it states that a continuous internal pedestrian circulation system shall be provided throughout the development. Sidewalk connection shall be provided, one between each building main entrance and the nearest street or internal drive, and that these connections shall be placed in a straight and direct route. The applicant is requesting to allow a rural path as opposed to the required sidewalk for buildings in courtyards and SCO frontage. Staff had originally provided guidance to the applicant to use a PROAG distinction to reference the type of material to be used on these paths. However, upon further consideration, staff is recommending new language as PROAG or Public Right-of-Way Accessibility Guidelines refers to the standard within right-of-way, and these rural paths are intended to be outside of the right-of-way. Staff can support the request for an aesthetic change so long as the safety of the user is considered. So staff is recommending approval of MOS 5 with the condition that the language PROAG is removed and replaced with stable, firm, and slip resistant, regardless of the sidewalk material. MOS number 6, very similar. They are requesting a modification to allow a PROAG compliant rural path in place of a sidewalk for multifamily buildings along the SCO. A continuous internal pedestrian circulation system shall be provided throughout the development. Sidewalk connection shall be provided, 2 between each dwelling unit entrance in a multiplex or multifamily building and the nearest street or internal drive. The applicant is requesting to allow a rural path as opposed to the required sidewalk for multifamily buildings along this SCO. Similar to MOS number 5, staff can support this request for an aesthetic change as long as the safety of the user is considered. So staff recommends approval of MOS number 6 with the condition that the language PROAG is removed and replaced with stable, firm, and slip resistant regardless of the sidewalk material. MOS number 7. This is a request to allow a reduction in the minimum parking requirements for multiplex, townhouses, multifamily parking based on ITE's parking generation manual parking demand. The chart that I provided both on your cheat sheet and in the staff report lists the zoning ordinance requirements and what the applicant is proposing. Chapter 10.1.6 provides the minimum parking requirements for proposed uses within a development. The applicant is requesting a modification to allow reduction in the minimum parking requirements specifically for the multiplex, townhouses, and multifamily parking. Staff can support the reduction of the multifamily, townhouses, and multiplex parking minimums based on the recent approval by BOMA for the same parking reduction request on another development, the Middle 8 PUD subdivision, and based on other local development examples that support the reduced parking rate being appropriate. Staff recommends approval of MOS number 7. MOS number 8. Request to allow a PROAG compliant rural path in place of a sidewalk for buildings in courtyards. In chapter 11.7, it states that the following features are required: an internal sidewalk that connects all main entrances to any adjacent street. The applicant is requesting to allow a rural path as opposed to the required sidewalk for buildings in courtyards. Similar to MOS 5 and 6, staff can support this request for an aesthetic change so long as the safety of the user is considered. So staff is recommending approval of MOS number 8 with the condition that the language PROAG is removed and replaced with stable, firm, and slip resistant regardless of the sidewalk material. MOS number 9. This is a request to permit one irregularly shaped hanging sign per business if the shape is representative of the business that it's representing. Chapter 15.1.3 states that signs shall not be irregularly shaped. The applicant is requesting one irregularly shaped hanging sign per business for a shape that is representative of the business. The request has become a common one for development plans and has been approved by BOMA each time it has been considered. So staff is recommending approval of MOS number 9. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to disapprove Resolution 2024-43. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Public comment? Anyone in the public like to speak on this item that hasn't already? None? Oh, I've already done that. Applicant, have a presentation?
He's already done it.
Yeah, got anything left?
Okay, I'm gonna go slow this time. No, that's a great summary, and an unfortunate conclusion to the summary, but we all have worked really, really hard to get to yeses on all those MOSs. And so it's been, thank you to staff for all of their work and hours and all of that. So happy to answer any questions if you'll have them.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
And that's an approval recommendation to the board, mayor and alderman?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Have a motion to approve and a second. Discussion? Anything we didn't say before?
Yeah, pretty
Don't
much
have
the
to
same
go
thing I said prior.
Yeah.
Just, traffic is still a really big issue. We're going to have to look at phasing, we have to look at everything we can do. But I think, and again, impressive that staff can support the modifications, the standards, and I'd say, with recommendations, of course, so.
Okay, well, let's, if there's no other discussion there, let's go into our modification of standards. We have MOS number 1. It's a request to permit agricultural planting such as fields and orchards instead of the required tree plantings consistent with existing rural character of Franklin.
Move for approval.
Second.
Move for approval and second. Any discussion on this one? None? All right. Let's go to a vote. Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison is absent. Commissioner Lindsay is absent. Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye. Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
All right. MOS number 1 is approved. MOS number 2, request to allow multifamily and commercial mixed-use buildings within certain areas. They're CD-4B area, town, village of the plan to be at an angle from the frontage to create more interest along the street. Do you have a motion for that?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a proper motion and second. Any discussion on this item? All right, none. We'll go to the vote. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks, Commissioner Harrison is absent, Commissioner Lindsay is absent, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye, Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. MOS 2 is approved. MOS number 3, request to create farm compound building type to be consistent with the farmstead compound within the conservation subdivision design concept in Envision Franklin. There's not currently a building type allowed within the zoning ordinance to implement this aspect of Envision Franklin. Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second?
Second.
Have a proper motion and second. Do we have any discussion on this item? Seeing none, we'll vote. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks, Commissioner Harrison is absent, Commissioner Lindsay is absent, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye, Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. MOS number 3 is approved. MOS number 4, request to allow sidewalks only on one side of public and private streets per sheet C 4.10 pedestrian network. Do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have a proper motion and second. Any discussion on this item? None, then we'll vote. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks, Commissioner Harrison is absent, Commissioner Lindsay is absent, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye, Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. MOS 4 is approved. MOS number 5, request to allow a PROAG public right-of-way accessibility guidelines compliant rural path in place of a sidewalk for buildings and courtyards and SCO frontage. And staff recommends approval for this one and they have conditions. Do I have a motion?
Commissioner, they will be changing the wording on that when we pass it on to the Board of Mayor and Alderman, right?
If you approve it with staff conditions.
Approved with staff conditions.
Yes,
Move for approval with staff conditions, yes.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, have a proper motion for approval and second. Any discussion on this item? None, we'll vote. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks, Commissioner Harrison is absent, Commissioner Lindsay is absent, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye, Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. MOS number 5 with staff conditions is approved. MOS number 6, request to allow a PROAG public right-of-way accessibility guidelines compliant rural path in place of a sidewalk for multifamily buildings along the SCO. There's a recommendation for approval from staff, and they have conditions. Is there a motion on this item
Approved.
with staff
Staff
conditions?
conditions.
All right, have a motion to approve with staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, have a proper second. Any discussion on this item? None, then we'll vote. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison is absent, Commissioner Lindsay is absent, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye, Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. MOS number 6 is approved. MOS number 7, Request to allow reduction in the minimum parking requirements for multiplex townhouses, multifamily parking based on ID's parking generation manual, parking demand. The chart below shows the zoning ordinance requirements and what the applicant is proposing. Do I have a motion on this item?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a proper motion for approval and a second. Any discussion on this one?
Nope.
Seeing none, we'll vote. Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison is absent. Commissioner Lindsay is absent. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye. Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. MOS number 7 is approved. MOS number 8, request to allow PROAG public right-of-way accessibility guidelines compliant rural path and pace of sidewalk for buildings in courtyards. And staff had recommended approval of that with conditions. Do I have a motion on this item?
Recommend for approval with staff conditions.
Second.
Have a proper motion and a second. Any discussion on this one? Seeing none, we'll vote. Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison is absent. Commissioner Lindsay is absent. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye. Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. MOS 8 is approved. MOS number 9, request to permit one irregularly shaped hanging sign per business if the shape is representative of the business that is being represented. Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a proper motion, a second. Do we have any discussion on this item?
So the only thing the other times we've approved a modification of standard similar to this is when we say it's internal to the development. I know we did that, I think, to the factory. I guess I'm curious, do we know where that would be located at yet?
My understanding is that it's going to be at the Village Center specifically. So that neighborhood mixed-use design concept that we were referencing, that's where it's going to be located.
The Main Street.
Main
like
Street in
the
terms-
Main
The
Street part.
pedestrian-friendly street that he was referring to.
Yeah.
Which is generally internal to the development.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
It's generally internal to the development as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do we need to clarify? I mean, I think that's the expectation. I think we would clarify that.
Yes.
So I would amend it I would propose an amendment to that to say it should be internal to the development.
And I'll second that amendment.
Okay, we have an amendment that the irregularly shaped signs will be internal to the development. Have a proper motion and a second,
Yes.
and we'll vote on that amendment. Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison is absent. Commissioner Lindsay is absent. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye. Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it on the amendment that stating that all the irregularly shaped signs are internal to the project. Now back to the main motion of MOS number 9. Is there any additional discussion on that item? None? All right, so we're voting on the irregularly shaped signs with Amendment 1 added on, saying it must be internal to the project. Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison is absent. Commissioner Lindsay is absent. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye. Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. MOS number 9 is approved. Now back to the main motion. Is there any additional discussion on the main motion with modification of standards 1 through 9?
I just need to state that I will not be supporting this for the same reason I did not support the original rezoning.
Okay.
Likewise.
All right, any additional discussion? All right, we'll have a motion for approval to the board and mayor and alderman with all 9 modification of standards approved as well and incorporated. Commissioner Allen,
Nay.
Commissioner Franks,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison is absent, Commissioner Lindsay is absent, Commissioner Mann,
No.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye, Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
The ayes have it, 5-2. Item number 13 passes. Any other business? None? Would anybody like the motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a proper motion to adjourn in second. And we'll vote. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison is absent, Commissioner Lindsay is absent, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr votes aye, Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
If the ayes have it, this meeting is adjourned.